Yes, I'm here. How are you guys doing tonight?
Excellent. How are you?
What's
up, man?
Not doing too bad. Trying to stay warm here in the midst of the what do they call it now? The Siberian wave or
the Earth wobble.
Siberian vortex. That's what it is. Yeah.
or the Earth wobble, depending on who you talk to.
That's right. Well, they gosh, where was this? I think maybe it was in Siberia. They found a level in the permafrost where it was like miles and miles of various, not prehistoric animals, but animals like mammoths and things like that looked like that they had been shoved through a blender and then frozen just like really fast. Some of the mammoths that they found still had food in their mouths, like they were in mid-chew when all this happened. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's what's in store for us pretty soon.
Instant freeze like the day after tomorrow.
Yeah,
you got a wild imagination. I like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll all be sitting down getting ready to eat some pizza and have a beer or something, and all of a sudden, that's it for us.
Yeah. Doesn't take much of an imagination when it's actually happened to before on the Earth,
That's right.
Yeah.
And I have to say, you're sounding better now. The earlier part of your show, you were breaking up, but I think that it may have been Skype that was causing that.
Oh no, that was Chris, the host. This is Jeff, co-host.
Yeah.
That's his internet. He has really bad internet.
The thing about it is that when I was testing my Skype just before I came on, it was doing about the same thing. It sounded like that intermittent breaking up. So
Yeah, real choppy.
Yeah. So it may be a system-wide error going on here.
I hope so. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, Chris. Still a little choppy, but it's okay.
I'll try. I just won't talk. I just talk as much. I'll try not to talk in long sentences.
Yes. Stay with us, though.
That's right.
Oh yeah. Oh, of course. I'm here.
So, I am completely interested in these prophecies made by U.S. presidents. Is this the I'm familiar with the George Washington one, of course, which is very, very interesting. I mean, we should just start talking about that because that's always fascinating.
Yeah, that was a story that, they actually, I remember them actually teaching that to us in school. When they were talking about, especially I think it was like in elementary school when they were talking about the Revolutionary War and things like that. And the story, it's one of these things where it kind of varies from different tellings as people have written about it, over the years. But, the version I remember was that this was before, this was during the war, and I think it's during the time when it wasn't going very well for the colonists. They were getting the crap kicked out of them by the British. And, George Washington, he was... He was really going through like some spiritual crises, whether or not that they were doing the right thing, whether or not the colonists really should be doing, what they, to try to get their freedom from the British. I mean, you have to realize that when all this was going on, now 200 plus years, we look back at it and they were like, they were real patriots and, trying to start their own country from under the heel of the British. But, you have to remember that at that time they were considered traitors and terrorists, and the media at the time, especially in Europe, wasn't looking very favorably, on what was going on in the 13 colonies. So, naturally, for the people like Washington, I mean, they had some very serious, spiritual questions going on there. So there was at one point, Washington he was deep in prayer, and his prayers went out to God, divine providence, that with the hope that he could bring some kind of like some kind of message of hope to his troops through these days. Well, one day, as he was praying, he looked up and he saw what he described as a beautiful woman standing before him. Which, I mean, face it. I mean, when you're when the guys are in battle, I mean that's what a lot of them were thinking of at that time. But Washington said that it was, she was the most beautiful creature he had ever seen, and he was a little honked off because he had told his troops that he didn't want his privacy violated, and where did this woman come from? But she told him, she said she raised her arm to the east and said, "Son of the Republic, look and learn." And he said that he looked and beheld a heavy white vapor rising at some distance, fold upon fold, as he described it. This gradually dissipated, and he looked upon a strange scene, and he said that before him he could see one vast plain of all the countries in the world, Europe, Asia, Africa, America. And he saw rolling and tossing between Europe and America the billows of the Atlantic Ocean, and between America and Asia lay the Pacific. And he said that he saw a dark, shadowy entity that looked like an angel and was suspended in midair between America and Europe. And the angel dipped water out of the Atlantic Ocean and sprinkled it on America. And he did this with his right hand, and with his left hand he sprinkled water on the European countries. And as soon as that was done, a cloud rose up from those countries and traveled across the ocean to envelop America. And there were sharp flashes of lightning, and Washington heard the cries of pain from people, and he realized that the sounds were coming from America. And the angel repeated the action, sprinkling America and Europe with water, and the great cloud was drawn back in the ocean where it dissolved. Then he said that he cast his eyes upon America and beheld villages, towns, and cities springing up one after another into the whole land, from the Atlantic to the Pacific, was dotted with cities. And, you got to remember that this was when, the colonies, there was only 13 of them, mostly on the East Coast. But the angel told him that it was the new country's destiny to exist from coast to coast. And then he reported that he saw like a great battle from two different groups of people in the country, and one of them, how did he put it? Let me think. He said he saw the word union, and the other, gosh, I can't remember what the other was. I don't think it was something as obvious. Yeah, I don't think it was quite as obvious as that. But the angel placed an American flag between the divided country and said, "Remember that you are brethren." And then instantly the inhabitants, casting from them their weapons, became friends once more. So, I mean, speculation naturally have it that this was, the war between the states. But he said that his most frightening vision was when he saw a thick black cloud rise up from Europe, and it enveloped all of Europe. And then he said that he saw like beams of light coming from the United States that dissipated the clouds over Europe. But then when this was done, he said all of Europe was completely burnt, but that the angel dipped water from the oceans once again and sprinkled it over Europe, and said, "Son of the Republic, look and learn," and said that it was like divine intervention that the new country, meaning the United States, be the chosen one, the chosen country, and that with its intervention that it would help heal the world after that great conflagration. And then let's see. Seems to me, okay, and I'm kind of doing this off my head, guys. So you got to. He said that he saw that the angel showed him 3 great disasters, and that these will come upon the Republic, and that the most fearful is the third. When he said that, when the angel said that the entire world would rise up against the United States. I didn't call it the United States, but would rise up against the country, and that the center, the locus of this disaster would rise up from the Middle East, but that eventually the United States would prevail, and that peace would once again be over over not just the United States but the entire world. So
I hope that was 9/11.
I don't know.
I really doubt it, though.
Yeah, that could be things to come still.
Yeah, that's only a few thousand people. It's not exactly. I mean, the Civil War was more than 500,000 people. So.
Right. Well, I mean, not to not to downplay 9/11, but
right. Well, it's much more. It's much less tragic than the Civil War. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, that was Washington. That was Washington's prophecy, and there have been some scholars through the years, who have said that that didn't really happen. That's more along the lines of something that somebody wrote up, kind of like Washington and the cherry tree.
Right.
But the research that I did into this, I mean, traces the story back right up to around the time of the Revolutionary War. So, I mean, if it was made up, somebody did a really good job, kind of prophesizing, some of the things that's going to happen, to this country, since that time. So,
yeah, I really like the point you made about how England, of course, considered all our founding fathers pretty much to be just terrorists and rebels. And I really like that Ben Franklin quote where he says, "We must indeed all hang together, or most assuredly we shall all hang separately."
Yeah.
That's a favorite of mine.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the other things that to me is fascinating is a lot of the almost paranormal occurrences that happened right at the beginning of the origin of our country. I mean, there's a chapter in there about Thomas Jefferson and his meeting with almost like a man in black type of figure. He said that he was out walking in his garden when he saw a man come up to him, and the man was covered in a long black cloak, and the visitor told Jefferson that he knew that there were 3 great statesmen who were trying what the 3 great statesmen were trying to do, and that he had a design which would be appropriate and meaningful. At this time, Jefferson, Franklin, and Adams were poring over designs for the country, specifically the Great Seal of the United States, and something that like a design that would signify the seal for the new country. So the stranger then handed Jefferson a piece of paper, and on it was drawn the symbol of the Great Pyramid, with the eye on top of it. It's you see that now on the back of our dollar bills, and so that's where Jefferson said that the idea came from, and that symbol has been with us now ever since that time. And I mean, that symbol has been around for a long, long time. I mean, it used to be a symbol for certain alchemist secret societies. Right. It's been associated with the Illuminati and other secret groups. So I wonder sometimes the significance of this country and that being its Great Seal. Of course, I mean, there's a lot of people who said that the founders of the country were all part of, say, like the Illuminati, or we know that the majority of them were Masons, and right. the Great Seal has also been used in secret symbolism with the Masons. So, I mean, to me, it seems rather obvious that there is a pretty good mystical symbolism associated with this country and its beginning.
There's definitely a significance. I mean, we're playing a role in the future. I mean, it's kind of strange because we don't. At times, I think we're the bad guys. Then at times, I hear prophecies like that, and maybe we are the good guys. Are we truly the chosen country or whatever? It's kind of like it sounds weird, strange saying that, like almost like I'd be delusional or arrogant to say it, but meanwhile, and it's just strange. But meanwhile, we are the largest empire that's ever existed, and we are definitely in a pivotal time in history, it seems, when a lot of things are happening, and maybe even a lot of self-fulfilling prophecy. And I'll say self-fulfilling just because all prophecy seems to be made up as though they just know what's going to happen in the future, and they want to make us look more mysterious. At times, I suspect that. Yeah.
Well, below the pyramid are Latin words that, there's actually 3 translations of them. One of them is a new order of the ages. Another translation would be a mighty order of the ages lives anew. And then the last one would be an ancient order is born again.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but that just always makes me think. There are people, and it doesn't matter who's in office, who's in political office, or who the ruling political party is at that time. There's always people who are like, who always want to attack them. And, Democrats, Republicans, what have you. There's always people who want to attack them and say, oh, well, this country's going to hell in a handbag, because of, this president or this Congress or whatever. And it's like, it's their, it's because of them that, the country is going further and further away from God and all that. And I think that, if you look at these old stories, from back, in the 1770s, the prophecies that were given to us, it seems apparent to me that the people who are saying these negative things, they're just I don't want to say this on the air, but you know what I mean. Well, they're full of crap.
Okay. Well, I guess you suppose that maybe it like the politicians, obviously they're serving themselves. I really doubt I have my doubts that they are all that positive that they're attempting to portray. Perhaps it's all being maintained so that we could eventually be used as a force of good, or maybe we're actually being used for a force of good and we just don't realize it, and in the end it will prevail.
Well, okay. You have our politicians, okay. You have the people who are running the government, but the government and the politicians are not the country. We are the country. Oh. Do you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I mean, those guys are, they're in the scheme of things, they are really insignificant. I think that no matter what, it's us, it's you and me and everybody else in this country. We're the ones that matter, and we're the ones that are the guiding force of this country. And I think that's one of the reasons why we were given these prophecies that showed us the importance that this country has will have in the future then, and even now the importance that the United States will have. we're going to have all kinds of bozos and crooks and stuff running the government, but when it really comes down to it, we're this country. We're not Democrats, we're not Republicans, we're not Tea Parties. No, we're all citizens of the United States, and I think that is what is the important part of all this is.
And I believe I agree with you there in that Americans are overall good people, and I think well-intended and good, loving people, and it gives me a lot of hope. There is a lot.
Yeah, maybe this brutal power and domination could die out, and we could wield this empire for the good, because they got a good empire, man. If we got a hold of that, just think of what we could do.
Yeah.
It was explained to me once a few years ago that bad people that are perceived as being evil are actually being used by the good forces, and they don't realize they're actually doing good. They think they're, doing evil for themselves or whatever, but they're actually, in the end, doing a lot of good.
That's to me that makes a lot of sense. Because I think that there is a purpose to every action that happens in our lifetimes, in this reality, so to speak. And while things that happen at the time may be perceived as bad and evil, ultimately it leads to whatever this ultimate goal is for all of us. And now I'm not just talking about the United States. I'm talking about everybody on this planet. I think that you have a lot of rationalists or some of the more scientific types who say that we're just basically we live and die and we have no importance at all in the entire scheme of the universe, that our lives are basically meaningless. And I don't believe that. I think that our lives do have meaning. We just are not able to see the ultimate results of our lives. Because it's all combined on such a massive scale that as individuals it would just be impossible for us to see it. We're too close to it. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mhm. And then I asked her, "Well, does that mean these evil people are going to heaven when they die?" And she said, "Oh no, they're going far away from here."
Yep. Well, it's interesting because in the Gnostic Gospels, Jesus told his disciples that hell is just a temporary place. That the whole concept of people burning forever in hell isn't correct. He says that eventually everybody will make it out of hell. He goes, it wouldn't it wouldn't be.
I agree with that. That's what I believe.
You couldn't really have a merciful God. A creator of the whole universe, if he's so petty that that he would put people for an eternity in hell for doing things that ultimately just might end up being insignificant.
Right. A temporary hell, I think, would be a good thing. That's the complete opposite end of the spectrum. That would actually be a good thing for bad souls to experience, just so they learn their lessons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's our theological lesson for the day, folks.
Yep.
Let me hear you say it.
We'd probably be crossing some lines otherwise.
Oh well, I do that all the time, and I hug people off all the time. But
Oh yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to just be by the book here. I'm reading the intro, but a lot of these topics are very awesome. Spontaneous human combustion. What do you know about that? I mean, that's an interesting topic.
Oh yeah, that was. Boy, I remember as a kid reading a book. I wish I could remember what it was, but it talked about spontaneous human combustion, which, I mean, if you or your audience isn't familiar with that term, there have been cases throughout history where people just literally suddenly burst into flames and are almost practically consumed to the point that their body is ashes. In just a matter of sometimes it's just a couple of minutes. But most of the time, there aren't any witnesses. Somebody will, go see their mother, and tell her good night, and then come back the next day and find that mom went to the bathroom and suddenly burst into flames, and all that's left on the bathroom floor is a pile of ashes with maybe a foot or a hand remaining.
Right, and nothing else was lit on fire.
Right. There may
crazy.
be some superficial damage, things close by. I know there was one case, the guy he was an elderly doctor, and they found what was left of him. He had been in the bathroom, and I mean he could barely walk, so he had one of those not crutches. I can't remember what they're called, but like a walker. Yeah, right. His walker was there, but he had burnt right through the floor of his house, and what was left of it was in the basement. But the rest of the bathroom was relatively unscathed. I mean, there was a couple of plastic things that had melted, but you would think that if this guy had burnt to such an intensity that it turned him into this, to ashes, it would have burnt down the rest of the house.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's one of the odd things about spontaneous human combustion is, I mean, they have found people in bed where with covers on top of them, where there's almost nothing but ashes left of them, maybe some scorch marks on the mattress and the blankets, and that's just about it.
Yep.
It's almost as if the fire originates from inside the person.
Right, and I mean the human body is very flammable. All the gases, or not the oils inside of us, you would think it would burn down the whole house if that would happen.
Well, and that's the funny thing about it is that the human body really is not that flammable. It takes when you cremate somebody, the crematoriums go up to 4,000 degrees.
Wow.
And
okay.
even then, the body is not totally consumed. They have to then run what's left of them through a grinder to grind them up into smaller particles, because there's still a lot of the big bones remaining, like the skull, leg bones especially, that just do not burn, and 4,000 degrees, that's a lot. And a lot of these people, the experts, the scientists say that, they were sitting in an overstuffed chair and were smoking a cigarette. They fell asleep, and the cigarette fell on them, and then they just slowly burnt all night long. And they've done some experiments where they've taken a pig and wrapped him in the same kind of material that you would find in pajamas or something like that, and set it on fire. Of course, it was a dead pig, and they got some. It worked a little bit, some sections of its body, burn out pretty well, but it was still recognizable as a pig. Unlike some of these people who, if it wasn't for say a foot or a skull that was remaining, you wouldn't have been able to tell that this had been a person at one time.
So, do you have any theories on how this is happening or what's causing it? That's probably where things get weird.
Oh, that's just it. There's all kinds of theories. There have been people who experienced spontaneous combustion and survived, and were able to talk about what happened to them later. There was one guy who he was sitting on the edge of his bed. He was getting dressed, and he was putting his socks on, and all of a sudden smoke started billowing out from underneath his shirt. And he wasn't smoking, nowhere near an open flame or anything like that. And his wife was there and saw it as well. So they start smacking at him. That's your natural reaction. You think you're on fire. You try to pat it out, but there wasn't any source of flame. There was just smoke coming out of his body from somewhere. Well, then it eventually stopped. But later on that day, when he was in his car, his body started smoking again. And it smoked to such an extent that it filled up the inside of his car. But once again it went out. Whatever it was, he stopped.
So there most likely is a scientific explanation for this then.
There's
bad luck.
No. There's been some speculation. There was a book written, and its title was, Spontaneous Human Combustions, and the author, speculated that there may be a subatomic particle. I can't remember what he called it. I don't know, flame on or something like that. That for some reason, it will go off and consume your human body at almost like at a subatomic level. That we're not talking about something just like a regular flame or anything like that. We're talking about something more on a very minute scale. But that's one of the odd things about spontaneous human combustions is that the people who have experienced it themselves or saw somebody burst into flames, a lot of times the flames are reported to be blue in color, like a gas flame. There was one gentleman who one day all of a sudden this blue flame. He described it almost like an acetylene torch type of flame. Just suddenly burst out of his stomach area, or like his abdomen, and it burned a hole right through his shirt. And it was coming out of his body like that. And he was able to, he put his hand over it, and it went out. But it left like a very deep burn. But the doctor could tell that the burn originated from inside of him. It didn't come from the outside. This was something that came internally, and that seems to be the factor with a lot of the spontaneous human combustions, is that the flames seem to originate from inside, and it's very difficult to put the fire out once it starts. There were cases where people tried to pour water on somebody who just suddenly burst into flames, and it seemed almost like the flames were feeding, that they intensified with the water.
Wow.
Which if that is the case, we're definitely dealing with something that's not a normal fire as we think of, just lighting a piece of paper or something like that. It's almost like whatever it is that is causing it is breaking apart the almost like the molecules of water and then using it as fuel. Now, there are cases that I have in the book of people who have been struck by ball lightning and they burn up very similar to spontaneous human combustion. That has led some authors to speculate that that all spontaneous human combustion is caused by ball lightning.
Right.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think that. I think it's there's kind of a superficial resemblance to it. There was a case though, and it happened actually not too far away from where I live in Crawford, Indiana, and but this happened like in the late 19th century, where witnesses saw a ball of fire come down from storm clouds, go through the window of a house. And they heard the guy who lived in the house suddenly scream real loud, so they went in, and they found that he had been reduced almost to ashes, and there was like a burn mark on the floor from the window to his ashes, and then up the chimney, up the fireplace.
It would just be a horrible way to go.
Oh my God! I'm kidding.
That's worse than winning the lottery. So how many times does it happen? What are the chances that it's going to happen? 1 in 100 million?
Oh, probably. It's there hasn't been, well, at least as far as we know. I mean, this isn't something that happens every day.
Right.
Right.
Oh.
There have been a number of these cases that have just been attributed to natural causes, an accident, like I said before, falling asleep with a cigarette, things like that. So there could actually be a lot more of these cases than were ever reported, because, I do know that, firemen who investigate these types of cases are usually left dumbfounded, because they can't come up with an explanation. And these, these are guys who, their career is fires, and they know the difference between a regular death by fire and these spontaneous human combustions. And a lot of times they're pressured to write it off as, just a normal fire death rather than something abnormal. Because a lot of the authorities, they don't want to deal with it. It's problematic. You try explaining that to the city council.
They swallow it hot coals.
When you're trying to get your budget for next year, and they come to you and say, well, what's this crap about, this guy, dying from spontaneous human combustion? What were you smoking, when you did this case? So most of these guys aren't going to deal with it then.
Any chance that it's linked to the paranormal? Could it just be some sort of I don't know, were these people highly religious? Could it have been some sort of black magic spell or something crazy?
Well, you can't dismiss anything, because we really just don't know. And when you say the paranormal, I've always said that the paranormal, the supernatural is just science that we don't understand yet. Because look at it. 300 years ago, people didn't know what lightning was. To them, lightning was that was paranormal. It's the angels, throwing pissing contests at each other or something, or meteorites. People would see meteorites fall, but the scientific community refused to accept it. So, even as far forward as Thomas Jefferson. he made a comment one time when this farmer had found a meteorite that he saw falling from the sky. And Thomas Jefferson made the comment that I'd sooner believe that this farmer would be lying than to think that rocks could fall from the sky. So I mean, and we hear that. I mean, we hear that even today. You know, still with various things. You know, people see a ghost or a UFO or something, and he was like, yeah, right. You're just, you're trying to make some money, or you're just lying to us. There's no such thing as UFOs or spontaneous human combustion. But I do think that we will figure it out sometime, but I think that we're dealing with something that is probably on, like I said earlier, like on a subatomic or even quantum level. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah, I mean, you could, of course, now see old superstitions. Say, like with Native Americans and other indigenous peoples all around the world, I mean, they very much believe that situations like that, were caused by, I'll put this in quotes, black magic, or you honk the gods off, and so I mean, they burnt you up in an eternal flame. So who's to say? There could very well be entities that are not quite on the same level of reality as
Dimension,
we live.
Yeah, that's what I believe.
But still, they are able to interact with our reality, and you honk one of them off, and maybe they do have the ability to do something like that.
See, Tim, I don't know if you were on the show before when I mentioned this, but I've had many paranormal experiences, and more so with UFOs and whatnot. And lately, there was a period, I think, from 2003 to about 2014, actually, where I really didn't see one UFO the whole time. And over the last 6 to maybe 8 months, I've been seeing them more and more, and like once a month, maybe once every couple months, whenever I visit some families, and my family up in northern Jersey. And recently, I just get this feeling like they've been wanting to like interact or something, and and I'll go outside 3:00 in the morning, and the things I've been seeing lately are the most outrageously crazy stuff I've ever seen in my life, more so than back in 1997, and I get the feeling like they are trying to interact, and then I just get really scared. Like, okay, wait a second, I changed my mind. I don't want to see like an alien in front of me. I just get scared. I don't want to get scared.
They're coming to take you away.
No, they're not, because they would have taken me away. They wouldn't be waiting for me when I'm not scared. They obviously want me to not be scared. But how? I don't want to be scared.
Is it hard not to be scared? Because I've never encountered a UFO.
If you see like a big red UFO that looks like if it's going to fly over your house, it's going to take up the whole sky, then
wow,
you'll get scared.
That's big.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah, that will make you scared, even if like you're one of those crazy.
You wouldn't just wave to him and be like, "What's up, alien?"
In that instance, I kind of do a strange prayer in hopes that they don't come here, that they stop. And that stops them, actually. That stops them. And then, like, something very unusual happens. Like, it will turn, that big red UFO will turn into a white ball of light that comes somewhat close. Like a few dozen.
But a lot smaller.
Oh, yeah, very small, like, just like a normal white light.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, you're not the only one who has reported that kind of almost unreasonable fear. Now, I mean, naturally, if you see something that huge and that low flying overhead, most people are going to be peeing down their leg. But there have been a lot of reports of people who will see, just like a regular UFO. I mean, nothing, regular UFO. That's an oxymoron, isn't it? But not a huge, overwhelming type of UFO, but just see something in the sky that's unusual, and I mean they will just be almost overcome with fear that they can't explain why they are feeling that way. And it's just and afterwards, I mean they're surprised that they reacted that way. I mean, you're talking about. I've heard of cases of like soldiers, who had no problem with just running face first into bullets flying in their direction, and yet they would see a small UFO in the sky, and they almost, one guy. I mean, he crawled underneath his pickup truck.
I'm not surprised.
He was so scared. He was so scared. Yeah.
I consider myself kind of brave, but when I see something like that, I just I get the sense that they are like extremely telepathic. So I have confidence that if I think in my mind I do not want to see you, and I put my hands up like that halt, like a halt signal, like a stretching, like almost, and then it responds as though it's respecting my wishes. So I can't assume that they're negative or that they want to abduct me or kidnap me or whatever, as Chris says. But still, I don't. It's like I feel like every time I'm getting more and more brave. But if that day ever comes, I don't know, man.
Well, the way you describe it also about you'll go through long periods where nothing will happen at all, and then then all of a sudden it's just like every week or so where you'll just be seeing them all over the place. I mean that's not unusual either. I mean these kind of experiences do tend to come in clusters like that for whatever reason. You see it also like on a national or world scale. But for people who have these almost personal experiences, I mean they'll go for months without anything happening, and then all of a sudden, it'll just be like 10 or 20 instances in a couple-week period.
Yeah. Well, it's like I only go up there to my family's maybe once every 3 months, but the last 3 times I went there, each time some very strange things happened. But the last time was the creepiest. That was the creep because it actually looked like it was coming directly over the house, and it was a great distance away at first. And I could tell it was very large and very low to the ground, but it almost looked holographic. I couldn't see through it, but it wasn't making any sound. It was like a bright orangish red, and it had 5 or 6 points coming out of it, and each one had like a ball of light at the end of it. It was unlike any UFO I've ever seen on any videos or pictures, and it looked like in about 3 to 5 seconds. I mean, that's how fast it was flying over above to me. Like 3 to 5 seconds, it would have been directly above me, and like within like 2 seconds of seeing it, I just basically said stop, and that thing just shrunk into a white ball of light, and then just fell out into the woods in front of me. It was real creepy. Yeah,
that is. That's really unusual. Well, yeah, but once again, though, I mean, the way you describe it. Yeah. There have been other people who have said that when something like this, especially like the really large ones, when they're flying overhead, they said that to them it was almost like seeing, and I like the way that you said, it was almost like a holograph, because other people have described it as almost like seeing a ghost, because they didn't feel like that there was any substance behind it.
Totally.
That they were looking at an image, but there wasn't any solidity to it. They didn't feel any, because you would think that something that big flying overhead, you would feel the air, being moved around it. That big a thing, you think there'd be a breeze or something with it, or at least the sound of, whoosh.
Right. But maybe the satellites up in the air are producing the images.
Who knows? Could be the case. I mean, I told my cousin. He said maybe I have a brain tumor.
On your big. That's fine.
His room is right there. He said, if that happens again, knock on my window. I don't care if I'm asleep. I won't get mad at you. And I got to bring next time I go out there, I'm going to bring a camcorder or my laptop webcam at the very least, if that's all I have at the time.
Well, good luck getting them to work.
Yeah. They're gonna if it actually works, it's going to be because they wanted me to get them on video.
Yeah. Because 9 times out of 10, either the person just forgets that they have the camera with them, and doesn't even bother to pick it up, or they try to get it to work and it just refuses to work.
Yeah, it turns off.
Hasn't that happened to you before?
Say that again, Chris.
He said,
has that happened to you before?
Well, yes, it has. In fact, I was investigating a poltergeist occurrence at a house in Ohio, and I had taken some television equipment with me. I used to be a videographer, and all the batteries that I had taken with me, and I took the full compliment because then you had your camera, and then you had a side pack which held the recorder. These were 3/4-inch television equipment, and the camera had its own battery, and then the recorder pack had a battery as well, and as well I had a belt pack that could be used to run we always called them sun guns. Those are those lights that you see on top of the cameras, and those were they ran about a 500 watt bulb. So I mean the belt packs held quite a bit of power, as well as the batteries in the camera and the recorder. And I hadn't been in that house more than 5 minutes when every single battery was dead. I mean, I could literally see the meters just go down, just like that, and they were dead. And I mean, we're talking about these were NiCad batteries, nickel cadmiums, and it took a while to charge them up. But once you got them charged, I mean, they would run equipment for quite a while, and boom, they were just dead, just like that, And so, I mean, when I hear other people having these experiences, I'm like, yep, I believe you. I mean, I've seen it happen. I know it happens.
Yeah.
And if the batteries. If the batteries hadn't run down, probably something else would have happened. Maybe the tape would have got clogged up, in the head or the rocker arms that pulled the tape, through the machine, or the cable would have broken. It always seems to be just some kind of unfortunate accident like that.
Oh, yeah. Poltergeists and UFOs, they seem to do the same thing when it comes to that.
Oh, yeah. Right now I'm working on a book with Tim Beckley and Sean Castillo called UFO Repeaters. And I have a chapter that deals specifically with that idea that there are some people who will have either a UFO experience or UFO experiences all of their life that changes them. They experience paranormal activities either before or after their UFO experience, and then a lot of times these people come out changed somehow. Their IQ may increase exponentially. They become interested in stuff that they weren't interested in before. Science, the arts. Some people actually even go, eventually become psychotic, and become murderers or sexual deviants. I mean that that has happened before. A lot of these people end up getting divorced. They were married or becoming estranged from their families. You hear some people sometime who are very, very interested in the UFO phenomenon. They're like, "Oh yeah, boy, I wish they would land and and take me away to their other planet," something like that. And I tell you something. A lot of these people who have had these kinds of experiences, it's in the long run, it ends up not being very, very happy for them.
Yeah, you don't want that.
No.
I do not want to be. I don't want to become friends. I don't want to be picked up.
Yeah.
You don't want to be friends?
Well, a hello is okay. A hello, maybe from a distance,
Well, let's see. This kind of stuff. I mean, it makes me wonder whether or not the UFO experience is actually an extraterrestrial experience.
Yeah.
So I mean, there could very well be some UFOs could be actually nuts and bolts spacecrafts coming from other planets, but a lot of these other cases makes me think that you're dealing more with a with a paranormal phenomenon. Yeah, again, it's up to your own definition of what paranormal is. I mean,
right.
It could be like I said earlier. I mean, it could be interdimensional, interreality, interspiritual, time travelers, what have you. But
I shouldn't say demonic. That implies that I'm talking about good versus evil and on a biblical terms. But like a lot, I guess. I'm thinking like fourth dimensional maybe, but you can only hope that these beings are positive and not negative. And
well, once again, though, I mean, what's your definition of positive and negative? To a cow, when the farmer comes and puts that bullet through its head so he can butcher it for food.
Yeah.
That farmer.
That's not the response I like to hear.
Yeah, that farmer, that farmer is evil, but the farmer is butchering the cow so he could feed his family.
Yeah.
So what's the definition of good and evil? There's a lot of considerations.
I'm not sure if I want to go outside anymore when I'm at my my family's during the night, 3:00 in the morning. No. I think I'll just stay inside.
Jeff, what happened to you?
Yeah.
Well, Nick Redfern wrote a book. And I can't remember what its title was right now. Like the Final Solution or something like that. I know there's probably people out there now like screaming at their computers, say with the title, but I can't remember what it was. But I mean, the thesis of that book was that he discovered that there was an investigative panel that I guess started with a group in the Air Force, like back in the 60s, who got together to investigate the UFO phenomenon, maybe come up with some ideas that then could be submitted to the military and the government, And I guess that they met for years and years and years, and it finally got to the point where they decided that the UFO phenomena was basically representative of demons and satanic of origins. That it all was basically just a kind of like a trick on humankind, and that they weren't extraterrestrials, but they were like the traditional devils and demons that you see from the Bible, and that ultimately that they felt that these things would become more and more public, and fooling people into thinking that we were dealing with benevolent space brothers, when actually this was the devil coming to steal our souls for that the ultimate like Book of Revelation type of things.
Tim,
but,
I think that's like 50-50. What I think exactly that are my worst fears, you know.
Yeah, well, to me the most disturbing thing about this is that the panel they decided that the only way that that this could be thwarted was to turn the country into an Old Testament theocracy.
Wow.
Get rid of democracy and all of that, and it would be a Christian-based theocracy, bringing back all the old biblical laws and everything like that.
That would be more like a Jewish, wouldn't it? I mean, that's just like another form of Sharia law almost.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, but it wouldn't be, they'd never acknowledge that it was Jewish.
Right.
But you're right, though. You're right, though. I mean, it would be, and you're absolutely right about Sharia law. It's the two. I mean, despite what some of these Bible thumping Christians say, there's not much of a difference between radical Islam and radical Christianity, especially those based on Old Testament laws.
Very creepy to even acknowledge that, but it's true. I mean, there's no more separation of church and state if that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Freedom.
And that was the point. The point was that democracy and freedom is important when it comes to your soul. That that people would choose basically repression over losing your soul.
It's very creepy because I mean I can't handle. I wouldn't be. I don't know. That just seems very wrong to me to do that. I don't know. It's very, very, very strange place to be in.
Well, it's just interesting though how you have this panel of supposedly well educated disciplined people who just slowly kind of fall into this almost psychosis and paranoia psychosis, into believing that the entire UFO phenomena is demonic, and that they're here to basically they said that that these beings were here. It was almost like from the Evil Dead. They were here to feast on our souls.
Yeah, harvesting souls.
Souls.
I'm amazed that's the conclusion that they came to, because it seems that it's reflecting on my fears. I mean, that's I've heard this a few times, and I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, no, that's not true. Come on. And it was a real hardcore Christian that was telling me it, and it was long after I saw my first UFOs. I was like, no, that can't be true. That's not true. They're not demons. Come on, that's crazy. But after a while, you can you get the sense that could be true, and it's just like, I hope that's not the case. I mean, that's all I can do is hope, but it's scary. It is. It's scary to think that.
Well, why would you think that then?
What's that, Mike?
If it's scary to think about, then why would you think about it?
Because it's happening. I'm confronting reality.
You're just trying to create it, huh?
I'm not. I don't want to create it. I'm confronting what's been there, and it's just right in front of me.
Yeah.
Well, but there have been a lot of UFO cases that do almost seem to smack of spiritual demonic activity. Tim Beckley and I put together a book. It's been out. It's been a few years ago that we put it out, but it was. I had it on the tip of my tongue. It was like. All I can think of now is flying saucers from hell, but that's not it. I hate that. You have something right there in the tip of your cerebellum, and then it's just gone. Round trip to hell in a flying saucer. That's what its title was. The title actually came from a book that was written in the 1960s by a contactee who claimed that. He was seeing UFOs and talking to the occupants of the UFOs, and they took him to their planet, and the planet's name was Hell. And,
whoa.
And he came to believe that, I mean, these weren't extraterrestrials, but they were, spiritual, demonic types of entities. But we came up with a lot of cases, UFO cases for this book that at least some UFO contacts are not nice. We're not talking about we're not talking about the friendly Sprace brothers here, who are coming from other planets to save us from extinction.
Right. It's interesting that you bring that up, because that last time that I was actually up there at my family's, and before that happened, during that night, and this was actually New Year's, I was up there, and that night, the thing I was contemplating in my mind before that happened, and all night basically, was the rapture.
Interesting.
So the rapture was on my mind, and I just had these visions that some form of rapture would happen, but it would be alien induced, and and I guess what would happen to the people that are taken is that they would be eaten. So yeah. So that was a creepy night, and then to experience that, I mean, I guess you can understand why I got a little scared there at the last second. Yeah.
Well, especially if that thought just all of a sudden just pops into your head like that.
Yeah.
Where the hell did that come from?
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Oh man. I'm going to be going there sometime in the next week, so if I don't come back,
well, definitely take your video camera.
Oh, I am.
Yeah, make sure that you've got things ready and to take pictures. Yeah,
Before I go outside, I am definitely. Yeah.
Well, I tell you though, unfortunately, it's so hard to take pictures of stuff at night. I mean, unless it's like you said. I mean, unless it fills the entire sky. But I mean, we've all seen these videos of just like these little teeny tiny lights, in a black background, and the person who's taken it, they're like, I swear to you that this thing looked like this and it looked like that, and then when after I got it on video, it looks like this. What the hell?
Right. Yeah, that's the only thing about recording out at night. It's really hard to get good quality. But this object at this one time, I mean. It was much larger than usual. I have no doubt that would have been picked up on video.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how large it was. It was about, by the time I saw it, it was about 3 times bigger than the moon as far as in the sky, and within a second, maybe 2 seconds, it was like 6 or 7 times bigger than the sky. So it was coming. It was one point across the sky, and it would have been over my head within seconds. It was that crazy. Yeah. And it looked so fake. Like you said, it really did look fake. Like a projection, It was creepy. It looked like it was straight out of like a bad CGI movie.